Hello, in this tutorial I'll be showing you guys how to create and edit tables in the Terminal 4 system. The first step to creating a table is to navigate to the site with which you want to place your table and log into the Direct Edit view. If you don't know how to do this already, go ahead and click on the annotation above or the link down in the description below to learn how. Once you're in, hover your mouse over the body content you wish to edit and select the Modify option. Once in the body content editor, click on the Insert Table button right here and it'll bring up a window that looks similar to this. From here you can determine the number of columns and the number of rows as well as a number of other options that I'm about to explain. Cell padding allows spaces between the text or content within it and the borders by typing in a numerical value in the box you will set what the cell padding is. Cell padding allows spaces between the text or the content within each cell. By typing in a numerical value in the box, you will set what the cell padding is. Cell spacing is the actual space or distance between cells. Cell spacing actually spaces out the distance between cells. This adjusts similarly to the cell padding. The alignment option allows you to either flush text to the left or the right or center it in the middle of the cell, similar to how the align text option works in Microsoft Word. The border of a table is a visible line that you can see that goes around the entire table. This is defaultly set to 0, which means that it will not appear. But if you would like to make it a visible border, you can change this to any number you'd like, and depending on how high the number is, the boldness of the line will be increased. The width and height categories determine the default size of your table. Each cell table will expand and grow as you add content to it, but if you wish for the cells in your table to be bigger than the content inside of them, you can set the size of the table to be up to 500 pixels by 500 pixels by entering the values for the width and height boxes. Most users will have no use for this class option, so I won't be going over that in this tutorial. You also have the option of manually adjusting the size of a table by clicking and dragging on these little boxes around it. Most users won't use this class option, so I won't be going over it in this tutorial. The table caption option lets you choose if you'd like for there to be descriptive text above the table. The last two options, make the first row a header and make the first column a header, will shade the cells of the first row and the first column respectively and make the text in them bold. Once you're done, click on the Insert button and the table will now be placed where your cursor was in the body content. To make changes to the table, simply click on it and select on the Insert Table button again, only this time it'll bring up a box with the options for that table. Once your table is created, if you want to make more exact changes directly to the table, you can go ahead and use this array of buttons right here. The first you already know, which is the Insert Table button. You can use this to add additional tables to your body content when you have no table selected. However, if the table is selected, it'll bring up the properties of the current table, as I mentioned before. Once you've selected a table, this second button right here allows you to edit the properties of a single row. The third is the Modify Cell Properties button, which, as its name suggests, allows you to edit the properties of an individual cell. The fourth button here allows you to insert a row before the location of your cursor. So if you select a row in your table, it'll add a new row just above it. So in this particular case, it'd be between this first and second row right here. The fifth button here does the opposite and instead inserts a new row after the currently selected table location. So in this particular case, it would add a new row below where my cursor is right here. The last button having to do with rows right here is the Delete Row button, which sort of speaks for itself in that it will delete the current selected row you have. So if I were to click this right now, it would delete that additional row that I had. So I'm going to go ahead and add a new row back so I have two rows to work with here. The following three buttons have the same purpose but instead have to do with rows rather than columns. These last two buttons allow you to split and merge cells together to make larger or smaller cells. I'll go ahead and show you how this works later, but for now I'm going to go ahead and explain each button step by step. Now, I mentioned the Modify Row Properties button right here. When you click on it, you'll see a box like this with several options. The first option is the row type. You don't really have to worry much about it, so we're not going to be changing that in this tutorial, and we're just going to leave it on body. The second option is to change the alignment of the row, which is where you can choose if the text in the row is going to be centered in the cells or flushed to the left or right. Again, similar to how a Word document works when you flush the text to the left or center it. The vertical alignment works similarly to the alignment option, only it controls if the text is closer to the top of the cell or the bottom of the cell, or if it's right in the middle. Class is another option that we don't have to worry about, so we're going to leave that as not set. And the last option is to adjust the height of the row. If you feel that you'd like the row to be taller than the others, here's where you can adjust the size of a single row. Just enter a pixel height here and it'll adjust the height accordingly. Before you hit update, if you'd like any settings to apply to any other rows in the table, you can update the even rows of the table, the odd rows of the table, or even all of the rows in the table with these settings. Once you've decided upon that, go ahead and click on the update button. The next button I'm going to show you guys is the Modify Cell Properties button right here. This box has a lot of the same functions as the other one, only the actions are limited to the cell you have selected. The only thing that should be new at this point are the cell type and scope options. We're not going to talk about the scope option here, but the cell type basically allows you to choose between data or header. If you select the header option, that particular cell will be shaded in and have bold text, whereas a data cell is just a normal cell in a table. Before you click the update button, you again have the option to choose whether or not it affects all cells in a row, all cells in a column, or all cells in the table, similar to the other box before. When you're ready, click on the update button. Now, the last thing I'm going to show you guys how to do is how to merge and split table cells. You can only split cells that have already been merged, so the first thing I'm going to show you how to do is to merge cells on this bigger scale model I have here of a table. Select the cell that you would like to serve as the top corner of the new merge cell. By this I mean that when I select a cell and click on the merge cell button right here, it'll give me the number of cells below my selected cell I would like merged, and the number of cells to the right of the cell that I would like to have merged. So if I enter in 2 columns and 4 rows, and then click on the update button, I'll now have a 2x4 size cell inside of my table. Now that we have a merged cell, we can go ahead and split it back. Basically, this button acts as an undo for any merge that you've done. So, since I have this particular cell selected, when I click on this, it'll return it back to its original state with unmerged cells. And this concludes my tutorial on tables.